Okay, so today we shall discuss about the relationship, or whether there is any difference or similarities between the law of diminishing returns and the law of variable proportion. And we shall also discuss the relationship that happens between the marginal product and also the average product of a factor with the help of this diagram. And next we discuss the region of operation. So we are talking about the theory of production here. So theory of production, when we talk about considering the production process, region of operation would mean how will a rational producer choose between these three stages for his operation. So whether he will stay in stage 1, stage 2 or stage 3, we have to find out using this diagram. Last topic that we will discuss is the importance of the law of diminishing returns, how it is important to our day-to-day life, this by using this law of diminishing returns, whether it helps us in the day-to-day life. So the importance or significance of this law of diminishing returns. So coming to the first point, law of diminishing returns and law of variable proportions. So it is important for us to know that this law of diminishing returns, as it is defined, it is the same as the law of variable proportion. So this diminishing returns or law of diminishing returns and then law of variable proportion is the same. Both of them are same. That is why in our analysis we have not drawn any distinctions between these two laws. But however, some authors have tried to distinguish them. So it is pointed out by them that the law of diminishing returns is only one phase or stage of the wider law of variable proportion. So even if they might be same, some of the authors, they have pointed out that law of diminishing returns is just one stage or one part of the law of variable proportion. So under this law of variable proportion, we have certain states, that is law of diminishing returns. So this law of diminishing returns comes under the wider or the bigger law of variable proportion. So according to them, the law of variable proportion states that as the quantity of a factor is increased, we're just talking about the definition. So according to this law of variable proportion, as quantity of factor is increased, keeping the other factors constant, what we see is that we get an increasing marginal returns to a factor. And then after a point, we will also see a diminishing marginal returns to the variable factor. And then the last stage we have is negative marginal returns to that factor. So this law of diminishing returns is the stage 2 of the law of variable proportion. So thus, on this view, diminishing marginal returns to factor is just one stage of the wider law of variable proportion, according to the definition of law of variable proportion. So considering that, and then looking at the modern economic theory, the distinction between the law of diminishing returns and law of variable proportion is not usually made. They are not distinct as concerned with the modern economic theory, because you will see from the definition of the law of diminishing returns, as given by the two distinguished economists, Z. Stigler and then Paul Samuelson. So according to them, law of diminishing returns itself is defined in a way that when a factor is increased, keeping the quantity of other factor fixed, diminishing returns occur eventually or after reaching a particular point or a stage. So their definition seems to be very similar. So that is why in modern economic theory we have not made any distinction between these two laws. It is again because diminishing marginal returns to a factor after a point or after a particular state occurs due to the increasing proportion of the variable factor to the given quantity of the fixed factors beyond the point of optimum proportion. So this decreasing or diminishing returns occurs just because of the increase in the proportion of the variable factor in respect to the quantity of the fixed factors beyond the point of optimum proportion. That is why we have diminishing marginal returns. So in modern economic theory, it is important to note that there is not much distinction made between the law of diminishing returns and the law of variable proportion. So coming to the next point, that is relationship between marginal product represented by MP and average product AP of a factor. So observe the diagram nicely. So on the x-axis we are measuring the amount of labor, and then on the upper diagram on the y-axis we are measuring total output, and then the lower diagram we are measuring average product and marginal product on the y-axis. So the upper diagram, so TP is the total product, and then on the lower diagram MP is the marginal product and AP is the average product. So we have seen that this point F is the point of inflection. So looking at this diagram, let us see. When the average product, when this AP is increasing, what is happening with MP? When AP is rising, MP is higher. So when MP is rising, when AP is rising, we see that MP is greater than AP. And let us see when, AP is falling. So when AP started to fall, now you will see the opposite result. That is, MP is lesser than AP. So what is the difference you see is that when MP rises, when AP rises, AP, that is average product rises, marginal product is greater than average product. The second thing is when AP started falling, you will see that MP is lesser than AP. So looking at this curve, that is what we see, the difference. And the next thing that we observe is that when the average product is constant, when the average, product of a factor is constant, its marginal product is equal. So at this point S, AP and MP is equal. So as a result, marginal product is equal to the maximum of average product. That is why when this AP is maximum, MP is equal to the maximum of AP. So at this point S, we're talking about this point S, and then at this point S, AP is maximum, and then MP will be equal to AP at this point S, because AP is maximum here. So that is why you will see that this marginal product, this MP cuts the AP curve or the average product curve of the factor from the maximum point. So this MP is cutting the AP curve on the maximum of AP curve at point S. So that is the relation between the marginal product and the average product. So in the theory of production, we shall see how will a rational producer chooses his area of operation among stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. So after having explained this, the law of diminishing marginal utility or diminishing marginal returns, it is now important to explain in which region or a stage a producer or a rational producer will choose to operate or produce the product? So at what stage a producer will produce his product? So let us see stage 3, that is here. We have a declining total product. So total product is declining at stage 3. So a rational producer will never choose to produce in this stage where the marginal product is 0. So the marginal product is not even 0, it is negative. So at stage 3, the marginal product is negative. So it is going beyond the x-axis. So a rational producer will never choose this stage 3 because at stage 3, the marginal product is negative. So since marginal product being negative, a producer can always increase his total output. So increase his production, by reducing the amount of labor. So by deducting the amount of labor, he can increase his total output. In doing so, he will be saving the cost of labor. So cost of production will be saved. And on the other hand, there will be increase in the total output on the other. So when marginal product is negative, a producer will deduct the number of employment of labor and then increase the total output. So at stage 3, a rational producer will not produce here because when there is a negative marginal product, he has to deduct the amount of labor that is employed to increase his production. So he will not choose this stage 3. So let us see at stage 1. What do we see here? Stage 1. In stage 1 also, a rational producer will not operate to produce the product. And the reason is that, both marginal and average product of labor are increasing throughout in stages. So in stage 1, let's see the lower diagram. So both marginal product and average product both are increasing in this stage. You will see that the curve are increasing in stage 1. The reason why a rational producer will not at this stage 1 when we have increasing MP and AP throughout the stage is that, for a producer for whom, the wage rate of labor is given, it will not be profitable to produce in stage 1, It is not possible. He will not, produce at this stage 1 because when he further expands or increase the labor employment, he can expand his production. So by adding more and more labor employment, he can expand his production level when the marginal product and average product curve are rising throughout in this stage 1. So he will not operate in this stage 1. Because by further addition of labor employment, he can expand his production. So he will not operate here. So stage 2, it is only in stage 2, that the producer will choose to produce his product, because in this stage 2, the marginal product of labor, so MP, is diminishing. So it is started diminishing here, this MP. It's slowly going down. And that is the area where a producer will find it profitable to operate. So at this point, in this region 2, a producer will decide to produce will also depend on the wage rate of labor and price of the product. So therefore, it is in stage 2, which is often called as the economic region, and stage 1 and stage 3 are known as the non-economic region. So it is in stage 2 that a rational producer will produce his product where we have the diminishing marginal product. So we have found out the region of operation, that is, it is only in stage 2 that the rational producer will choose to operate his production process. So what are the importance or the significance of this law of diminishing returns? So this law of diminishing return is an important law of economics. It has been empirically found to be a valid proportion. So it is empirically found and found to be a valid theory or a valid proposition. And again, this law of diminishing return, lies at the heart of the theory of population that is, put forward by Malthus or Thomas Malthus. So Malthus pointed out that, population, if unchecked, it would increase at an alarming rate. And the land that is used for production of food grain is fixed in the long run. So what Malthus argued is that because of these diminishing returns, the production of food cannot continue to keep pace with the growth of population because land is fixed in the long run. So thus, on the basis of these diminishing returns, it was predicted by Malthus that increase in population with a given quantity of fixed available land, it would eventually lead to a fall in the living standards. So there is a problem of low level of standards of the people is because of the fact that because of the diminishing returns and population is rising rapidly and the land which is used for cultivation of food production is fixed. Because of that, we are facing the problem of fall in the living standards of the people, which give rise to problems such as food crisis and famines. So that is the theory given by Malthus. Fortunately, this bad prediction, gloomy prediction of Malthus has not come true, despite the fact that law of diminishing return is an empirical valid proposition. Why is that happen? Because Malthus and other classical economists had not fully realized the potential of technical progress and capital accumulation for raising agricultural productivity. So Malthus and other classical economists, they have not factored in the case of technological progress and then capital accumulation, which helps in raising the agricultural productivity. So their theory is that since available cultivation of land is fixed, and then when population increase in a rapid rate, then it will lead to a fall in the living standards of the people according to the diminishing returns. So that is what they propounded, but unfortunately this prediction of Malthus does not come true because of the potential of technological progress and the capital accumulation which raise the agricultural productivity. It is in fact, it is the law of diminishing returns, which is based again on the important assumption that technology, capital, equipment, etc. remain the same. But what we found out is that in the present developed countries, taking the example of the developed countries, what we see is that though population has increased rapidly, during the last century and a half, agricultural productivity has greatly gone up. Even if population has grown up or risen or increased, agricultural productivity has also gone up instead of diminishing. So this is because present day developed countries have made an impressive progress in technology and then capital accumulation in agriculture. So whatever Malthus and other classical economists are projecting does not come true. And on the other hand, when we talk about the developing countries, they did not make much progress in agricultural technology and in accumulating sufficient capital in agriculture. So it is no wonder, therefore, that agricultural productivity of worker is, for them, is low, because they have not made use of, technology and then accumulation of capital in agriculture. That is why their, productivity of worker is low. So from this, what we can know is that we should be able to understand that because of diminishing returns, there can be no hope, for raising the living standards of mankind, especially of the people in the developed countries. So it is projected like this. Because of this diminishing returns, there can be no hope for raising the living standards of mankind, especially for people living in developing countries. To predict such gloomy prospect, for the future of mankind on the basis of law of diminishing return is very incorrect. It is wholly incorrect. And we are able to find this out because of this law of diminishing returns. So we should not give this gloomy project for our future without taking into consideration the technological progress and the capital accumulation in agriculture. So despite the validity of these diminishing returns, developing countries, like India, they can rapidly increase their agricultural production by making advancement in agriculture technology and increasing the capital formation in agriculture. So what can we conclude from here is that we can suspend or get rid of the operation of diminishing returns by what? By means of continuously improving the techniques of production through progress in science and technology. So we can get rid of this, diminishing returns, especially in developing countries by focusing on, development of science and technology, especially in the techniques of production. So that is the significance or importance of law of diminishing returns.